The last tenant. I wasn't supposed to find the key. It was taped to the back of the electrical panel in the hallway outside my apartment. Small, rusted, with a faded label that said, Storage B2. I had lived in the building for 6 months and never heard of a basement level. There were only 3 floors, no elevator, no mention of storage in the lease. Curiosity won. That night, around 11:30 p.m., I went looking for the basement door. It was at the end of the parking garage. A metal door I had somehow never noticed before. No sign, no number, just a lock. The key fit perfectly. The door opened with a long, echoing creak. A stairway descended into darkness. The air smelled stale, heavy, like something closed off for too long. I turned on my phone flashlight and started down. The steps were concrete, old, cracked. At the bottom, there was a narrow hallway. 5 storage doors lined the wall. B1, B2, B3, B4, B5. Mine was B2. The lock was already open. That's when I felt it. The feeling that someone had been there recently. The air was slightly warmer near the door. I hesitated. Then I pushed it open. The room was small. No boxes, no furniture. Just a single chair in the center, facing the wall. And on the wall, photographs. Dozens of them, all taped in neat rows. All of me. Sleeping, cooking, watching TV, sitting exactly where I was now standing. Some were from angles near the ceiling, some from the hallway, some from inside my bedroom. My throat went dry. I stepped closer. The timestamps were printed in the corner of each photo. Every single one said 3:12 a.m. Different dates. Over the past 6 months. I don't wake up at 3:12. At least, I didn't think I did. Behind me, the basement door slammed shut. The sound echoed violently through the hallway. I ran to it, locked, from the outside. My phone lost signal. No service. I turned back toward the storage room. The chair had moved. It was now facing the doorway, facing me. Slowly, it rocked once, forward, then back. I didn't breathe. A whisper filled the basement, not loud, but everywhere. You never leave at 3:12. My heart pounded in my ears. I leave? I whispered back without thinking. Silence. Then, from behind me, yes. I spun around. At the far end of the basement hallway, someone was standing there. Same height as me, same build, same face. My face. It tilted its head slightly, smiled, and started walking toward me. Slow, confident, like it belonged here. I backed into the storage room. It kept coming. Step, step, step. The lights overhead flickered. I grabbed the chair and threw it. It passed straight through it, like smoke, but it kept walking, closer. I felt cold, so cold my hands went numb. You leave every night, it said calmly, at 3:12, and I stay. The hallway lights burst. Darkness swallowed everything. I felt something brush past me. Then the basement door creaked open again. Light from the garage spilled down the stairs. Silence. I ran, up the stairs, out the door, back into the parking garage. My car was gone. My apartment door upstairs was locked. And when I checked the mailbox, my name wasn't there. Only one label, apartment 2B, occupied. For 6 months, by someone else. The photo on the mailbox card showed a familiar face. Mine. Smiling. Apartment 307. When I signed the lease, the real estate agent said something strange. If you wake up at 3:07 a.m., don't just look at the clock. He laughed. I laughed too. I assumed it was a joke. The apartment was cheap. Too cheap, so I didn't ask questions. The building was old, but clean. 3 floors. My unit was on the 2nd floor, at the very end of the hallway. The first few days were normal, until the 4th night. I woke up with a strange feeling. No noise, no light, just a feeling. My hand reached for my phone. 3:07 a.m. The moment I saw it, something tapped softly in the kitchen. I froze. Probably the fridge. Old buildings make noises. I closed my eyes. Tap. Closer this time, from the hallway. Then footsteps. Slow. Careful. Not from upstairs. Not from outside. From inside my apartment. My heart started pounding. Be logical, I told myself. A burglar? But I hadn't heard a door open, no glass breaking, just silence. Then, the sound of my bedroom door creaking open. Slowly. But my door was closed. I stared at it. It wasn't moving. It was still shut. Yet I had heard it. My phone suddenly vibrated. Notification. Motion detected, living room. I don't own a security camera. My hands shook as I opened it. A black and white video feed appeared. The angle was from the top corner of the ceiling. My living room was empty. But something was wrong. The couch had moved. I was sure I had pushed it flush against the wall earlier. Now it was a few inches forward. I kept staring. No movement. No one there. Then the screen flickered. Static lines crossed the image. And when it cleared, someone was standing in the middle of the room. Very tall, very thin. Its face was blurred, like the camera couldn't focus. It was just standing there, completely still. I could barely breathe. I was about to jump out of bed, but then I noticed something worse. It wasn't looking at the camera. It was looking toward the hallway, toward my bedroom, toward me. Slowly, it turned its head and looked directly into the camera. It smiled. The screen went black. My phone shut off. The room was silent. Too silent. Then I heard breathing right outside my bedroom door. Slow, calm, as if someone had their ear pressed against it. I stepped off the bed. My legs felt weak. I walked toward the door. I touched the handle. It was freezing cold, like it had been sitting in ice. A soft scratching sound came from the other side. Then a whisper. Very close. You still haven't looked. I didn't understand what that meant. The handle moved slightly, but the door was locked. I stepped back, and that's when I saw the mirror beside my closet. My heart stopped, because in the reflection, the bedroom door was open, and something was standing behind me. When I turned, nothing was there. I looked back at the mirror. Now the door was closed again, but the shadow was still there, closer. 3 knocks echoed in the room. Not on the door, from inside the room. Slowly, I looked down. From under my bed, a long, pale finger slid out, dragging across the floor, toward my foot. My phone turned on by itself. 3:07 a.m. The time hadn't changed. It was still the same moment. The camera feed opened again. Now it showed my bedroom. From above, I could see myself standing in the center of the room. And behind me, the figure. Clearer now. Skin stretched too tight. Eyes black and empty. A smile far too wide. Words appeared on the screen. Now look. On the video, I saw it raise its hand, slowly toward my head. At the same time, I felt warm breath on the back of my neck. Very close. Very real. And a voice whispered beside my ear. You wake up at 3:07 every night because this is not your apartment. The lights went out. Everything went dark. The last thing I saw before collapsing. The time changed. 3:06. And it was counting forward. Back to 3:07. The camera that wasn't there. I don't remember installing a camera in my bedroom. That's the first thing. I would remember something like that. But last Tuesday night, at exactly 1:14 a.m., I received a notification on my phone. Live feed available. I live alone. I don't own a security system. I stared at the notification for a full minute before tapping it. The screen opened to a video, black and white, grainy. The angle was from the top corner of my bedroom, pointed directly at my bed. At me, sleeping. I dropped the phone. The video kept playing. I could see myself breathing slowly under the blanket. The timestamp in the corner read 1:13 a.m., 1 minute ago. This had to be a glitch, some kind of spam. I picked the phone back up. The camera angle slowly adjusted, tilted down slightly, centering perfectly on my face, as if someone were controlling it. My chest tightened. I looked up at the corner of the ceiling. Nothing there. No device, no lens, no blinking red light. Just plain white paint. On the screen, I saw myself move. Not wake up. Move. My sleeping body rolled slightly onto its back, but I hadn't moved. I was wide awake now, frozen in place, watching myself sleep. On the video, my eyes slowly opened, wide, staring straight up at the camera. But in reality, my eyes were open too, and I was staring at the ceiling, not at the corner, not at any camera. On the screen, the version of me smiled, a slow, deliberate smile. I felt my own face. My mouth wasn't moving. The version of me on the screen sat up in bed. The blanket slid off its shoulders. I did not move. I couldn't. My body felt locked, paralyzed. On the screen, it turned its head, not toward the camera, toward the bedroom door, and whispered something. The audio kicked in, soft, crackling. He's watching now. I live alone. There is no he. The bedroom door creaked open behind me, very slowly. I didn't hear footsteps, just the hinge. On the video feed, my double stood up from the bed. It walked toward the door, toward whoever was standing there. I still couldn't move. My phone vibrated again. Another notification. Switching perspective. The screen flickered. The angle changed. Now the camera was behind something, peeking into the bedroom through the doorway. I saw myself in bed, frozen, holding the phone, exactly as I was. And in the corner of the room, standing where the first camera angle had been, was something tall, watching me, watching both versions of me. It had no clear shape, just a distortion in the air, like heat waves rising from asphalt. On the screen, the entity tilted its head, and I heard a voice, not from the phone, from the room right behind me. You found the feed. My body suddenly unlocked. I jumped out of bed and spun around. The room was empty. The door was closed. The ceiling corner was blank. I looked back at my phone. The screen was black. No app open, no notifications, no history. I checked my installed apps. Nothing new. No security software, no cameras. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I convinced myself it had been a dream. Sleep paralysis, stress. That made sense. Until 1:14 a.m. the following night. The notification came again. Live feed available. This time, I didn't open it. I locked the phone, turned it face down, closed my eyes, tried to ignore it. The phone vibrated again, and again, and again. Finally, I looked, but the notification wasn't from my phone. It was coming from somewhere else. A faint glow in the corner of the ceiling. A tiny blinking red light. Watching. And my phone screen slowly turned on by itself. Front camera activated. I saw my reflection. Behind me, something leaning down close to my ear, smiling. And on the screen, text appeared. You're the camera. The voice in the walls. I started hearing it 3 weeks after I moved in. At first, I thought it was pipes. Old houses breathe at night. They expand, they shift, they whisper. That's what I told myself. The house was small, just 1 floor. Cheap rent. Too cheap, honestly. But I needed somewhere fast, and the landlord didn't ask many questions. Neither did I. The first sound came at 2:26 a.m. A soft murmur, so faint I wasn't sure I was awake. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. Silence. Then it came again. Not a bang, not a scratch, a voice. Too muffled to understand, like someone talking from inside the wall. I sat up slowly. "Hello?" I called out. Nothing. I walked through the house, checking every room. Closets, bathroom, under the bed. Nothing. No open windows, no TV left on. I went back to sleep, telling myself it was just the house settling. The next night it happened again. 2:26 a.m. Exactly. This time the voice was clearer, still muffled, still distant, but definitely speaking. I pressed my ear against the bedroom wall. The sound stopped immediately, like it knew I was listening. I pulled back, waited. 5 seconds. 10. Then, a whisper, right where my ear had been. "You shouldn't listen." I stumbled backward and hit the dresser. My heart was racing so hard it hurt. The voice hadn't sounded angry. It sounded calm, almost concerned. The next day I examined the wall in the daylight. No cracks, no vents, no openings, just solid drywall. That night I stayed awake on purpose, watching the clock. 2:25 a.m. Silence. 2:26. The whisper returned. Closer now, not just in one wall, in all of them, surrounding me, layered voices overlapping each other, too many to count, all speaking softly, all at once. I covered my ears. It didn't help. The sound wasn't outside. It was inside the walls, inside the space between them. Then the voices synchronized and said the same sentence together. "He can hear us now." Every hair on my body stood up. "He?" I whispered. The room went silent, completely silent. Then, a knock. From inside the wall. 3 slow taps right beside my bed. I didn't move. Another 3 taps, closer to the headboard. Then another, behind me. The knocking was moving inside the wall, traveling, circling the room, stopping behind my back. I felt the mattress dip slightly, as if someone had just sat down, very gently. right behind me. The voice returned, right next to my ear, not muffled anymore, clear, soft. "You're in the wrong house." My throat tightened. "This is my house," I whispered. A pause, then a quiet reply. "No." The wall behind the bed made a cracking sound. A thin line split down the paint, slowly, carefully, like something pushing from the other side. Plaster flaked onto the pillow. The crack widened, and through the gap, I saw an eye looking at me. Not from inside the room, from inside the wall. Blinking, watching. Another crack formed to my left, another eye, then another, all along the walls, opening, watching, hundreds of eyes. The voices whispered again, softer this time. "He stayed too long." The mattress dipped further. The weight behind me became heavier. Breathing filled the room. Not mine, not human. I squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them again, it was morning. Sunlight through the window. The walls were normal. No cracks, no eyes, no voices. I sat up slowly. Everything looked fine, until I walked to the hallway mirror and saw faint fingerprints on the inside of the glass, pressing outward. The reflection delay. I noticed it by accident. I was brushing my teeth when I realized my reflection felt off. Not wrong, just slightly delayed. When I raised my hand, it raised its hand a fraction of a second later. I froze. Maybe I was tired. I waved quickly. This time it matched perfectly. I laughed at myself. Too much screen time. The next morning, it happened again. I leaned closer to the mirror. My reflection leaned closer too, but it was smiling. I wasn't. The smile disappeared instantly. Now it matched me again. My heart started racing. I stepped back slowly. The reflection stepped back too, perfectly synced, except for the eyes. They didn't look scared. They looked curious. I avoided the mirror for the rest of the day. That night, I stood in front of it again. "Okay," I whispered, "if you're going to do something, do it." For a moment, nothing happened. Then I blinked. My reflection didn't. It kept staring, eyes wide open. Unblinking. I stumbled backward. The reflection stayed where it was, still close to the mirror, still staring out. I wasn't near it anymore. I was halfway across the bathroom, but it was still right there, breathing softly. Its hand slowly lifted and pressed against the inside of the glass. I looked down at my own hands. They were at my sides. The reflection tilted its head slightly, studying me. Then it smiled. Not the quick, nervous smile from before. A wide one, relieved, like it had been waiting. The bathroom light flickered. I squeezed my eyes shut. When I opened them again, everything was normal. The reflection matched me perfectly. Same expression, same fear. I let out a shaky laugh. "Just stress," I whispered. I turned off the light and left the bathroom. As I walked down the hallway, I passed the dark mirror one last time. In the black glass, I could barely see myself, just a faint outline. But the outline didn't keep walking. It stayed behind, watching me leave. The second account. I got a notification that I had logged in from a new device. That wasn't strange, except I hadn't logged in. The alert said, "Location, my city. Device, same model as my phone. Time, 2:04 a.m. I was asleep at 2:04 a.m. At least, I think I was. I changed my password immediately, enabled two-factor authentication, logged out of all devices. Problem solved. The next morning, I opened my social media. There was a new post on my profile. Just one sentence. Stop changing the password. It was posted at 2:17 a.m. I deleted it instantly, checked login history. Nothing unusual. No new devices, no suspicious IP. That night, I stayed awake. I kept my phone in my hand. At 2:03 a.m., nothing happened. 2:04 a.m., no notification. I exhaled slowly. Maybe it was a glitch. At 2:17 a.m., my screen lit up. New message from me. Same profile picture, same username. But when I tapped the profile, it was slightly different. One extra underscore at the end. The message read, "You're still awake." My mouth went dry. I typed back, "Who is this?" The reply came instantly, "You know who I am." I checked the account details. Created 3 years ago. That's how long I've had my account. Same bio, same old photos. Even posts I deleted years ago were there. Except in this version, I looked different in the pictures. Slightly off. In every photo, I wasn't smiling. I was staring at the camera. In one of them, I was staring slightly to the side, like I was looking at someone standing next to the photographer, standing exactly where I was now. Another message appeared. "Why are you in my room?" I felt the air change, cold, heavy. "I'm not in your room," I typed. 3 dots appeared. Then, "Yes, you are." At 2:18 a.m., my bedroom light flicked on by itself. I didn't touch the switch. My phone buzzed again. A photo message. I opened it slowly. It was my room, taken from the corner near the ceiling. I was sitting on my bed, holding my phone, looking terrified. The timestamp on the image, 2:17 a.m. Another message, "Log out." My screen froze. The other account started typing again. "You keep logging into my life." The lights went out. Complete darkness. My phone screen was the only light left. Final message, "There's only room for one of us logged in at a time." The extra toothbrush. I noticed it on Sunday morning. There were 2 toothbrushes in the cup. I live alone. For a second, I just stared at them. Maybe it had been there before. Maybe I just never paid attention. One blue, one green. I always use blue. I picked up the green one. It was damp, like it had just been used. My stomach tightened. I checked the mirror. Nothing unusual. Apartment door still locked, windows closed. I told myself I was being paranoid. Maybe I bought a pack of 2. Maybe I tried the green one once. Stress can mess with memory. I threw the green toothbrush away. Problem solved. Monday morning, there were 2 toothbrushes in the cup again. Blue and green. Both dry. I didn't touch them. I checked the trash can. The green toothbrush I threw away was still there. I took a picture of both brushes in the cup, sent it to my friend. "Am I losing it?" She replied with a laughing emoji. "Probably." That night, I stayed up late, watching TV in the living room. Around 1:30 a.m., I finally went to brush my teeth. 2 toothbrushes, blue and green. The green one was wet again. My hands were shaking now. I walked through every room, closets, under the bed, behind the shower curtain. Nothing. No one. I locked the bathroom door from the inside just to feel safer, brushed my teeth with the blue one, kept staring at the green one in the cup. When I finished, I wiped the sink, turned off the light, opened the bathroom door, and froze. The hallway light was on. I always turn it off before bed. The bedroom door was slightly open. I'm sure I closed it. Slowly, I walked toward it, pushed it open. The bed was made, perfectly made. I never make my bed, ever. I stepped closer. There was something on the pillow, a toothbrush, green, still wet, and beside it, a small folded note in handwriting that looked almost like mine. It said, "Stop using my toothbrush." The unsent email. I was cleaning out my inbox when I found a draft email I don't remember writing. Subject, "Don't reply." It was saved at 3:08 a.m. I was asleep at 3:08 a.m. At least, I'm pretty sure I was. I opened it. There was only one sentence inside. "If you're reading this, it means I didn't wake up in time." I stared at the screen. Maybe I wrote it as a joke. Maybe I was half asleep. People do weird things when they're tired. I checked the last edited time, 3:09 a.m., 1 minute after it was created. I scrolled down. There was more text. It hadn't loaded at first. "Don't trust the alarms." My chest tightened. I use 3 alarms every morning, all set on my phone, all loud, all impossible to miss. I checked my alarm history. This morning's alarms showed as dismissed, not missed, dismissed, at 3:10 a.m. I don't wake up at 3:10 a.m. Ever. I kept reading the draft. If the alarms stop working, it means it's close. Close to what? I felt a strange pressure in my ears, like when a room goes too quiet. There was one last line at the bottom. "Tonight, stay awake past 3:10. I looked at the clock. 2:47 a.m. I hadn't realized it was that late. I told myself this was ridiculous. I brushed my teeth, turned off the lights, lay in bed staring at the ceiling. 3:07 a.m. My phone screen lit up. No notification, just on. 3:08 a.m. My alarms started going off. All 3, at once, loud, violent. I grabbed my phone, turned them off. My hands were shaking. Why were they set for 3:08? I never set alarms for that time. My screen flickered. A new draft email appeared. Subject, "You replied." It was being typed in real time. No one was touching the keyboard. The words appeared slowly. "You told me not to wake up." The alarms started ringing again, but this time, they weren't coming from my phone. They were coming from the hallway outside my bedroom. 3 different alarm tones, all at once, getting closer. The apartment above mine. When I moved into this building, the landlord mentioned something odd. "There's no apartment above you," he said, "just the roof." I liked that. No upstairs neighbors, no footsteps at night. The first few weeks were quiet, peaceful. Then one night, around 12:40 a.m., I heard it. A thud, directly above my bedroom. I froze. Another thud, like someone dropped something heavy. I sat up in bed and stared at the ceiling. Maybe it was the pipes. Old buildings make noises. I convinced myself it was nothing. The next night, it happened again. 12:40 a.m. Thud. Then footsteps. Slow. Measured. Walking across the ceiling. My heart started pounding. I grabbed a broom and tapped the ceiling 3 times. The footsteps stopped immediately. Silence. Relief washed over me. Until 3 slow taps came back. From above. I didn't sleep much after that. The next morning I went to the landlord. "You said there's no apartment above me." "There isn't." "I hear footsteps." He frowned. "There's only the roof and a sealed storage crawl space. Nobody can access it." "Can you show me?" He hesitated, then agreed. We climbed up a narrow maintenance ladder at the end of the hallway. At the top was a metal hatch, locked. He unlocked it, pushed it open. Cold air rushed down. We climbed into the crawl space. It was small, dusty. filled with insulation and old wiring. No furniture, no signs of anyone living there. No space for someone to walk upright. "You see?" he said. I nodded, embarrassed. That night, 12:40 a.m., I was awake, waiting. The thud came, louder this time, right above my bed. Then, footsteps, slow, dragging slightly, like someone pacing. I didn't tap the ceiling this time. I just listened. The pacing continued for almost 10 minutes. Then, it stopped directly above my head. Silence. I held my breath. A soft scratching sound began, like fingernails against wood, slowly tracing the outline of my room, from one corner to the other. I couldn't take it anymore. I grabbed my phone and turned on the flashlight, pointed it at the ceiling. The scratching stopped. Complete silence. Then my phone buzzed. Unknown number. One message. A photo. My hands shook as I opened it. It was my bedroom, from above. The angle was wrong, like it was taken from inside the ceiling. I was in the picture, lying in bed, holding my phone. The timestamp, 12:39 a.m., 1 minute before the noise started. Another message appeared. "You're loud when you breathe." The ceiling creaked. Dust drifted down onto my face. And then, right above me, a slow, heavy breath. The empty apartment. When I moved into the new apartment, the landlord warned me about one thing. "The walls are thin," he said. "You'll hear your neighbors." I didn't mind. I'd lived in worse places. The first night was quiet, too quiet. No footsteps, no TV sounds, no doors closing, just silence. On the second night, at exactly 11:42 p.m., I heard a knock. Not on my door, on the wall beside my bed. 3 slow taps. Knock, knock, knock. I froze. Maybe someone dropped something next door. I ignored it. 30 seconds later, 3 more taps, same rhythm. I sat up and tapped back 3 times. Immediately, 3 taps answered. My stomach flipped. I waited. Nothing. I told myself it was just pipes. Old buildings make noises. The next night, 11:42 p.m., 3 taps. This time, I didn't hesitate. I tapped back 3 taps. The reply came faster, almost excited. We did it again. 3 taps from me, 3 from them. It felt childish, like a secret code. On the 4th night, I decided to try something different. At 11:42, 3 taps came. I smiled nervously and tapped 4 times instead. There was a long pause. Then 4 taps answered, perfectly spaced. My chest tightened. That wasn't random. The next night, I tapped twice. 2 taps came back. Whatever was on the other side was copying me. The following evening, before 11:42, I knocked on my neighbor's door. No answer. I knocked again. Still nothing. I asked the landlord the next morning, "Who lives in the unit next to mine?" He frowned. "There is no unit next to yours." I laughed. "Very funny." "I'm serious," he said. "Your apartment is the corner unit. On the other side of that wall is the old elevator shaft. It hasn't worked in 20 years. I felt cold. That night, I told myself I wouldn't respond. 11:42 p.m., 3 taps. I stayed still. 3 taps again, louder. Then 4 taps, 5, 6, faster, impatient, angry. I pressed my pillow over my ears. The tapping stopped. Silence. Relief washed over me. Then, a single knock, right behind me, on the wall at the head of my bed, the wall that faces the hallway. Slowly, carefully, 3 taps sounded from inside my apartment, Not in the wall, in the room, directly behind me. Knock, knock, knock. The backup folder. Last month, my laptop crashed, completely froze. Black screen, wouldn't restart. I took it to a repair shop, and the guy said the hard drive was corrupted. Good thing you had cloud backup, he said. I didn't. At least, I didn't think I did. When I got the laptop back, everything was there. All my photos, my documents, even old school projects. At first, I was relieved. Then I noticed something strange. There was a folder on my desktop called Backup 2. I don't name my folders like that. I opened it. Inside were hundreds of video files, all labeled with dates. Every single date was from the past 3 weeks. I clicked the most recent one. The video opened. It was my bedroom. From the corner near the ceiling, like it was filmed from a tiny camera mounted up high. I live alone. The footage showed me sitting at my desk, scrolling on my phone, exactly what I was doing at that moment. I paused the video, looked around my room. There was no camera, no blinking light, nothing. I laughed nervously. Maybe malware, maybe someone hacked me. But the angle, it wasn't from my laptop camera. It was from above. I played another video. Different day, different clothes, still my room, still that high corner angle. In that video, I was asleep. The timestamp read 3:12 a.m. The video kept playing. At 3:17, the bedroom door slowly opened. I stopped breathing. I live alone. In the video, I was asleep in bed. The door opened wider, but no one walked in. Nothing visible, yet the door moved like someone pushed it. The camera angle didn't move, it just recorded. At 3:18, the blanket on my bed shifted slightly, like something pressed down beside me. I slammed the laptop shut. My heart was pounding. That had to be fake, edited, some sick prank. I opened the laptop again. The Backup 2 folder was gone, deleted. I checked the recycle bin. Empty. My phone buzzed. Unknown number. A message with no text, just a video file. No date, no name. My hands were shaking as I opened it. It was my bedroom, right now. Live. I was sitting on my bed, holding my phone, watching the video. The camera angle was different this time. Lower, closer, like it was standing in the doorway, behind me. And slowly, it started moving closer. The voice in the static. I couldn't sleep, so I turned on the old radio beside my bed. It was one of those vintage ones my grandfather used to keep in his garage. Most stations didn't come in clearly anymore, just music fading in and out, static, whispers of half sentences. Around 3 a.m., I found a frequency that wasn't music. It wasn't talk radio either. It was just static. But beneath the static, there was something else. A rhythm, like breathing. Slow. In. Out. I adjusted the dial carefully. The breathing became clearer. Then I heard a voice. Faint. Can you hear me? I froze. It had to be interference. Someone else's broadcast bleeding through. Please. The voice sounded strained, afraid. I grabbed my phone to record it. As soon as I opened the camera app, the radio went silent. No static, nothing. I closed the app. The static came back instantly. The breathing again. Then, you shouldn't record this. My stomach dropped. I wasn't talking. The room was empty. I whispered, "Who is this?" The breathing stopped. A long pause. Then, "You are." My chest tightened. The voice on the radio. It sounded like me. Not exactly, but close enough. Same tone, same cadence. "Stop messing with me," I said, louder now. The static grew louder, angrier. "You need to listen." The air in my room felt heavy, the kind of silence that presses against your ears. "Listen to what?" I asked. Another pause. Then, very softly, "Don't go to sleep tonight." A chill ran through me. "Why?" The radio crackled violently. Then the voice whispered, "Because if you fall asleep, I wake up." The lights in my room flickered. My phone screen lit up with a notification. No sender, just a blank message. It said 3:17 a.m. I looked at the clock. 3:16. The radio volume began rising on its own, static screaming through the speaker. "Stay awake," the voice pleaded. My eyelids suddenly felt heavy, like something was pulling me down. The clock changed. 3:17. The radio stopped. Dead silence. The air felt normal again. My body felt light, relieved. Maybe I imagined it. Maybe I was just tired. I laughed nervously and lay back down. Within minutes, I drifted off. The next thing I heard was my own voice, very close to my ear, breathing in, out, and whispering, "Thank you." The night shift camera. I started working night security at a small office building downtown. Nothing special. 4 floors, 1 lobby, 12 security cameras. My shift was from midnight to 6 a.m. All I had to do was watch the monitors and log anything unusual. The first week was boring, the second week too. But on the third Friday, at exactly 3:03 a.m., camera 9 turned on by itself. It wasn't motion activated. It only covered the 4th floor hallway, and that floor was empty at night. I leaned closer to the screen. The hallway lights were off, but at the far end of the corridor, someone was standing there. Just a dark shape, too tall, too still. I checked the other monitors. The elevator camera showed nothing. The stairwell camera showed nothing. Only camera 9. I grabbed my radio. "Is anyone on the 4th floor?" Silence. Of course there was silence. I was alone. I told myself it was a trick of the light, a shadow. Then the figure moved. Not walking, just closer, like the video skipped frames. From the end of the hallway to halfway down, my chest tightened. I rewound the footage, but when I replayed it, the hallway was empty. No figure, no movement, just darkness. I let out a nervous breath. Then camera 9 went live again. The figure was closer, now standing directly in front of suite 417, and the door to that suite was slowly opening. I knew for a fact that office was locked. I had checked it earlier. I stared at the monitor as the door opened fully. Darkness inside. The figure stepped in, and the door closed. I jumped up from my chair. There was no way someone was up there. I took the elevator. The ride felt longer than usual. When the doors opened on the 4th floor, the hallway was empty. Completely normal. Lights on, quiet. I walked towards suite 417. The door was closed, locked. I tried the handle anyway. It didn't move. My radio crackled suddenly. A burst of static. Then, a whisper. "Behind you." I turned instantly. The hallway was empty, but every office door along the corridor was now slightly open. All of them at the same time. Cold air brushed past me. I slowly looked back at suite 417. The door was open now, wide. The room inside was dark, but I could see something glowing faintly. A computer monitor. On the screen, a live camera feed. Camera 9. And in the video, I was standing in the hallway, looking at the door. But the version of me on the screen wasn't alone. Something tall was standing directly behind me, close enough to touch. I didn't want to turn around. My reflection in the dark office window showed empty space behind me. But on the screen, it leaned closer, its head tilting slightly, studying me. The whisper came again, not from the radio, from right behind my ear. You weren't watching the cameras. The hallway lights flickered. Every door slammed shut at once. The sound echoed like a gunshot. I spun around. Nothing there. When I looked back at the monitor, the feed was gone. Just static. My radio buzzed again. This time it was the building manager. "Why did you leave the lobby?" he asked. "I didn't," I said automatically. "You've been sitting at your desk for the past 20 minutes. My blood ran cold. "I'm on the 4th floor," I whispered. There was a pause. "No," he replied slowly. "You're on camera 1. I ran to the elevator. When I got back to the lobby, the monitors were on. Camera 1 showed me sitting at the desk, head tilted slightly, staring directly into the camera, not blinking. I slowly looked toward the desk. It was empty, the chair spinning slightly. I looked back at the screen. The version of me smiled. Then every monitor went black. The lights shut off. And in the darkness, something whispered, "Now we're watching you." The Last Passenger. I drive for a rideshare company. Mostly airport runs, late-night bar pickups, nothing unusual. One Tuesday, around 2:17 a.m., I got a request. No profile picture, no rating, just a name. Eli. Pickup location, an old bus stop on the edge of town. I almost declined it, but it was slow and the fare was decent. When I pulled up, the street was empty. No cars, no houses nearby, just the flickering streetlight above the bench. I waited. 30 seconds later, my back door opened. I didn't see anyone approach. The seat dipped slightly, like someone had sat down. "Eli?" I asked. A pause, then a quiet voice. "Yeah." I glanced in the rearview mirror. For a split second, I saw him. Pale, thin, dark hoodie. Then the mirror looked empty again. Probably the lighting, I told myself. "Where to?" I asked. "The address is in the app," he said. His voice sounded distant, not quiet, distant, like he was speaking from the end of a tunnel. I started driving. The address led toward the older part of town. Abandoned factories, closed warehouses, no apartments, no houses. Halfway there, my GPS glitched. The route disappeared, then reappeared with a new destination, further out. "Did you change the address?" I asked. "No." I felt the air inside the car get colder. Not normal AC cold, sharp cold. The kind that makes your fingers stiff. I turned the heat up. It didn't help. In the mirror, I could see him clearly now, staring at me, not blinking. His eyes looked too dark. "You missed the turn," he said softly. "I'm following the GPS." "No," he whispered. "You missed it." The GPS screen went black. My radio turned to static, and every streetlight ahead of us flickered off, one by one, like something was moving alongside the car, turning them off as it passed. My hands tightened on the wheel. "I'm pulling over," I said. "No," he replied instantly. "Keep driving." The car doors locked on their own. I didn't press anything. The dashboard lights dimmed, the speedometer dropped to 0, but we were still moving, gliding, like the car wasn't touching the road anymore. I slammed the brakes. Nothing. The road ahead wasn't familiar. No markings, no signs, just darkness. Then the car stopped suddenly. The engine died. Silence. My doors unlocked with a loud click. The back seat felt light again. I turned slowly. Empty. Completely empty. No one there. I grabbed my phone. The ride was still active, but the destination field was blank. Passenger name? Unknown. Rating? NA. Trip history? Not found. Then a notification popped up. New ride request. Same pickup location. Same name. Eli. 2:17 a.m. I looked at the clock on my dashboard. 2:16 a.m. It changed. 2:17. My phone buzzed. New ride request. From the bus stop. Behind me, in the darkness, a car door slowly opened. I shouldn't have taken the last train that night. The station was almost empty when I got there. It was 12:18 a.m., and the wind kept pushing trash across the platform like something invisible was running past. The electronic board above flickered, buzzing faintly. Only one train was scheduled. Line 7, last departure, 12:30 a.m. I remember thinking how quiet everything felt. Too quiet. No announcements, no distant rumble of other trains, just the hum of the lights overhead. When the train finally arrived, it didn't screech like they usually do. It just slid into the station. The doors opened. No one got off. I stepped inside. The car was empty. The lights inside were dimmer than normal, flickering slightly. The seats looked older than they should have been, fabric worn thin, metal handles slightly rusted. I sat near the middle. The doors closed behind me with a dull thud. The train started moving. No conductor's voice, no automated announcements, just the low metal hum of wheels against track. After a few minutes, I noticed something strange. We hadn't stopped at the first station. I leaned forward, checking the map above the door. The lights that usually tracked each stop weren't on. The windows were dark. Not city dark, just black, like we were moving through a tunnel with no lights at all. My reflection stared back at me in the glass, but it looked slightly delayed. When I tilted my head, it moved a second too late. I froze. Then I told myself it was the lighting, old train, weird angles. The train slowed suddenly. Finally, it stopped. The doors slid open, but there was no platform outside, just darkness. Thick, solid black, like the train had stopped in the middle of nothing. The air inside the car felt colder. Then, I heard it. Footsteps. From the next carriage. Slow. Dragging slightly. I stood up. "Hello?" I called. No answer. The footsteps continued, getting closer. One step, pause. Another step. I moved toward the connecting door between cars. It was slightly open. The light in the next carriage flickered. I pushed the door wider. The next car was empty too, but the seats were torn open, foam spilling out. The windows were cracked, and at the far end of the carriage, someone was sitting, back turned to me, wearing a dark jacket. I felt relief for half a second. "Hey," I said, "do you know what's going on?" The person didn't respond, didn't move. I walked closer. Each step felt louder than it should have. When I was only a few seats away, the train lights cut out complete darkness. I couldn't even see my hands. Then, the train lurched forward again. The lights flickered back on. The seat at the end was empty, but the window beside it had writing on it. Condensation from breath. 3 words. You missed it. My chest tightened. Missed what? The train began to slow again. Another stop. The doors opened. This time I saw something. A platform. Dimly lit, but the station name sign was cracked, half the letters missing. I stepped toward the door, and that's when I saw it. On the platform, paramedics, police, flashing red and blue lights reflecting off something metallic, a crowd standing behind tape, and in the middle of it, a body, covered with a white sheet. Near the edge of a different platform, the digital clock above them read 12:31 a.m., 1 minute after the last train was scheduled to depart. I stepped off the train. No one reacted. No one looked at me. I walked closer, my heart pounding. A police officer pulled the sheet back slightly, just enough for me to see the face. My face. Eyes closed, a dark bruise on my temple, like I'd fallen or been pushed. The officer spoke to someone beside him. Witness said he slipped running for the last train. The wind howled through the station. I turned slowly. The train I'd been on was still there, doors open, waiting. Inside, I saw someone sitting in my seat, watching me. It was me, but pale, expressionless. The doors began to close. I ran toward them, but my feet felt slow, heavy. The doors shut with a final metallic thud. The train pulled away, disappearing into darkness. And suddenly, the platform lights flickered out. The sirens faded. The station dissolved into shadow. I was alone, standing on a platform that no longer existed. In the distance, I heard the rumble of a train, approaching, again, and I understood. I hadn't taken the last train home. I had become part of it. Now, every night at 12:30, when someone runs for the final departure, they see me sitting inside, watching, waiting, and sometimes, if they miss it, they don't miss it alone. I took the night shift at Briarwood Storage because it was quiet. Too quiet, actually. The facility sat on the edge of town, behind a dead shopping plaza where half the stores were boarded up. During the day, it looked normal. Rows of metal storage units, security cameras, keypad gate. At night, though, it felt different. The metal doors would creak when the temperature dropped. The wind would slide through the narrow lanes between units and sound like whispering. But it was just wind. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. My shift started at 10 p.m. Lock the front office, check the gate, do 2 patrols before 3 a.m. Easy money. Around midnight, the rain started. Not heavy, just steady enough to tap against the metal roofs and echo through the lot. At 12:42 a.m., the gate alarm buzzed. I frowned. No one had the access code except renters. I checked the monitor. The gate was open, but no car had entered. Just empty road beyond it. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped outside. "Hello?" I called. The rain answered. I walked to the gate. It was fully open. The keypad screen was blank, like someone had unplugged it. I reset it manually and closed the gate. Probably a glitch, I thought. Old wiring. Back in the office, I poured coffee and tried not to think about it. At 1:15 a.m., my radio crackled. Static. Then, a voice. Soft. Unit 37. I froze. We didn't use radios for tenants. and I was the only employee on shift. "Who is this?" I asked. Silence. Then again. "Unit 37. The voice sounded close, like it wasn't coming through the radio at all. I checked the rental list. Unit 37 had been empty for months. The renters stopped paying, no contact, no forwarding address. We were supposed to clear it out next week. The rain grew heavier. I don't know why I grabbed the master key. Maybe because ignoring it felt worse. The rows of units stretched into darkness as I walked, my flashlight beam bounced across numbers painted on metal doors. The wind picked up. I stopped at 37. The lock was still there, untouched. I stood there listening. Nothing. Just rain hitting metal. I told myself I was being stupid. I slid the master key into the lock. It turned too easily, like it had already been unlocked. The metal door rattled as I lifted it, slowly. It screeched upward. The unit was empty. Completely empty. Concrete floor, bare walls, no boxes, no furniture, no dust even. Like it had never been rented. I exhaled sharply, almost laughing at myself. Then I noticed something. The floor was wet, not from rain. There were footprints leading from the back wall to where I was standing and stopping, right at my boots. My breath fogged in the air, but it wasn't cold enough for that. The radio crackled again. "Behind you." I didn't want to turn around. Every instinct told me not to, but I did, slowly. The lane between the storage rows was empty, but at the far end, under the flickering security light, someone was standing, tall, still. I couldn't see a face, just a silhouette. Rain fell through it, not around it, through it. My flashlight flickered. The radio dropped from my hand. When I looked back at Unit 37, the inside wasn't empty anymore. There was something in the corner, a folding chair, and on it, a security jacket. My jacket, with my name stitched above the pocket. Wet footprints surrounded it. I stumbled backward. "This isn't real," I muttered. The silhouette at the end of the lane tilted its head. Then the security lights went out. All of them. Darkness swallowed the lot. I ran. I don't remember locking the unit. I don't remember closing the gate. I just remember reaching the office and slamming the door behind me. The monitors were on. Every camera showed static, except one. Camera 12. Unit 37. The door was open, and someone was standing inside, wearing a security jacket, facing the camera. The face slowly lifted. It was mine, but the eyes were wrong. Too dark, too empty. The screen flickered, then went black. My phone buzzed in my pocket. Unknown number. I answered without thinking. A calm voice spoke. "You abandoned your post." My stomach dropped. "I'm still here," I whispered. A pause. Then, "No," the voice said. "You left at 12:42. That was when the gate alarm first buzzed. The lights in the office flickered, and I remembered. Headlights in the rain, brakes too late, metal folding, silence. I turned slowly toward the window. The parking lot outside was empty. No car, no rain, just darkness. And in the reflection of the glass, I wasn't alone. Someone stood behind me, wearing my jacket, holding a master key, and whispering, "Unit 37 is ready." I took the overnight shift at the emergency call center because it paid extra. Less traffic, fewer supervisors, mostly drunk calls and false alarms. At least, that's what they told me. The room was dim after midnight, just rows of cubicles glowing blue from computer screens. The air always smelled like burnt coffee and recycled air. By 2 a.m., the calls slowed down. 2:17 a.m. Line 3 lit up. No caller ID. That wasn't unusual. I put on my headset. "Emergency services, what's your location?" Silence. Then breathing. Slow. Shaky. "Hello?" I tried again. A whisper answered. "I don't have much time." My fingers hovered over the keyboard. "Okay, tell me where you are." A pause. Then the caller read out an address. My address. My apartment. I felt my stomach drop. "Sir, what is your emergency?" "They're going to say it was an accident." Cold spread through my chest. "Who is this?" The voice ignored the question. "It's 2:16 right now," he continued. I glanced at the corner of my screen. 2:18 a.m. "No," I said carefully. "It's 2:18. Not for me." The line crackled. "Please tell me what's happening," I said, forcing my voice steady. Another breath. "They're outside." My heart started pounding. "Who's outside?" "You are." The lights above my cubicle flickered. I pulled off one side of the headset and listened. The call center was silent. No one else talking. No keyboards. No coughing. Just quiet. I turned slightly in my chair. The rows behind me were empty. Completely empty. My coworkers' desks were dark. I swallowed. "Sir," I whispered, "what do you mean I'm outside?" The voice grew clearer, closer. "I can see you through the window." "I don't have a window at my station. The call center is in the middle of the building, no exterior walls." "No, you can't," I said. A soft laugh came through the line. "I can see you standing in the parking lot." My blood ran cold. "I'm not in the parking lot," I said slowly. "I'm inside." A pause. Then, "Not anymore." The monitors in front of me flickered. For a split second my screen went black, and in the reflection, I saw myself, standing outside, in the rain. Holding a phone to my ear, I spun around. The room was still empty, dead silent. The caller started speaking faster now. "You left early tonight," he said. "You felt tired. You didn't tell anyone." I shook my head. "That's not true. You never made it home." Something sharp stabbed through my memory. Headlights. Wet pavement. A red light. I gripped the edge of my desk. "Who are you?" I demanded. The voice broke slightly. "I'm you." The lights above me shut off, one by one, down the row until only my cubicle was lit. My screen switched to a live security feed. The parking lot outside the building. Police lights flashing, an ambulance, and in the middle of it, a car wrapped around a light pole. My car. Paramedics pulling someone from the driver's seat. The timestamp on the footage read 2:16 a.m. The caller whispered, "They're about to say time of death." I couldn't breathe. The feed zoomed in. I saw my own face. Still. Eyes half open. Rain running down the windshield. "Why am I here?" I choked. Silence. Then, "You're still on the line." The audio in my headset changed. I could hear distant sirens, voices, a paramedic speaking. Pulse is gone. The caller's breathing slowed. "I didn't want to be alone," he said quietly. The office behind me began to darken, the cubicles fading into shadow. "You can hang up," the voice continued, "but then you'll have to go." "Go where?" The screen glitched. The security feed disappeared, replaced with the call interface. Line 3. Call duration 00. No record. No trace. The overhead lights flickered back on. The room was normal again. Other operators were at their desks, typing, talking, like nothing had happened. I looked at the clock. 2:15 a.m. Line 3 lit up. No caller ID, My hands trembled as I answered. "Emergency services. What's your location?" Silence. Then breathing. Slow. Shaky. And I realized the call wasn't coming from outside. It was coming from me, trying to warn myself before 2:16. I worked the night shift as a highway maintenance operator on a rural stretch of road known as Mile 27. It was the kind of road nobody drove unless they absolutely had to. 2 lanes, no lights, thick forest on both sides. During the day, it was boring. At night, it felt forgotten. My job was simple. Sit in a small roadside control cabin, monitor traffic cameras, answer the emergency radio, and report accidents or breakdowns. From 11 p.m. to 7 a.m., I was completely alone. No coworkers, no passing cars most nights, just the hum of old electronics and the wind hitting the trees. At 1:42 a.m., the radio crackled. That alone was unusual. Most calls came through the phone, not the radio. The radio was supposed to be for patrol units, but patrols had been discontinued on that stretch years ago. I leaned forward. Control cabin, Mile 27. Who's transmitting? Static. Then a voice. Low, male, strained. Is anyone there? Yes, I said. This is maintenance control. What's your emergency? The voice hesitated. I think I crashed. I pulled up the traffic cameras. All of them showed empty road. Where are you located? I asked. I don't know, he said. It's dark. I hit something. Are you injured? I don't think so, he replied. But my headlights don't work anymore. That didn't sit right with me. Even if the lights were broken, the emergency camera sensors should have detected a stopped vehicle. Can you see a mile marker? I asked. A pause. It says 27. My skin prickled. That's where I am, I said. I don't see any vehicles on the road. Another pause, longer this time. Then he said quietly, I'm not on the road. Before I could ask what he meant, the radio cut to static. I tried calling back. Nothing. At 2:03 a.m., the phone rang. No caller ID. I answered. Maintenance control? Heavy breathing filled the line. Then the same voice from the radio. I got out of the car. I shouldn't have. Sir, I said, trying to stay calm. Where are you now? I followed the trees, he whispered. There's a building. My heart started racing. There are no buildings near Mile 27. Yes, he said. There is. A small one. With lights on. My stomach dropped, because the only building out here was my cabin. Can you see the door? I asked slowly. Yes, he said. It's locked. I glanced over my shoulder at the metal door behind me. It shouldn't be, I said. He laughed softly. That's what I thought too. The phone line filled with a new sound. Knocking. Not on the phone, on my door. 3 slow knocks. I didn't move. I can see you now, the man said through the phone. I waved. Why didn't you wave back? The pounding turned into pounding. The lights in the cabin flickered. I whispered, Who are you? There was a smile in his voice when he answered. You called me first. The phone went dead. The pounding stopped. Silence. I sat frozen for what felt like hours. Eventually, morning came. When the B shift arrived, I told them everything. They laughed it off, said I'd fallen asleep, had a stress dream. But when they checked the road, they found a wrecked car deep in the forest, wrapped around a tree. The driver had died on impact.
The time of death, 1:41 a.m., 1 minute before the radio call. I quit that day. They shut down Mile 27 6 months later after multiple reports of radio interference. Sometimes, though, when I drive at night and the signal cuts out, I hear the radio crackle and a familiar voice asking, "Is anyone there?"
I took the fire lookout job because I needed to disappear for a while. No city, no neighbors, no questions. Just a wooden tower bolted into the side of a mountain, rising above miles of dense forest. My job was simple. Watch for smoke, report fires, stay awake. The tower was 4 stories high, with a single room at the top, windows on all sides. A narrow metal staircase spiraling down to the forest floor. They told me the isolation would get to me. They were right. By the 3rd week, the silence wasn't peaceful anymore. It pressed against my ears. At night, the forest didn't feel empty. It felt like it was holding its breath. There was no cell service, just a radio that connected me to the ranger station 20 miles away. On my 26th night, at exactly 2:17 a.m., I woke up to knocking. 3 slow knocks on glass. I bolted upright. The door was behind me. The windows surrounded the room. The knocking came again, to my left. Tap, tap, tap. I turned slowly. There was nothing outside the window but black forest and starlight. I told myself it was a branch, wind, an animal, even though the tower stood well above the tree line. Another knock. This time behind me. I spun around. The window behind the desk. Empty. But the sound, it wasn't random. It was moving. Circling the tower. Knocking once at each window. Clockwise. Slowly. I grabbed a flashlight and pressed it against the glass, shining it down the length of the tower. Nothing clung to the walls. Nothing climbed the stairs. But the knocking continued. Now faster. Window to window. Closer together. Like whatever it was, it picked up speed. My radio crackled suddenly. Relief flooded me. "Ranger station?" I said, trying to sound steady. Static. Then a voice. My voice. "Don't look down." I froze. I didn't say that. I whispered. The radio crackled again. Too late. The knocking stopped. Complete silence. My heartbeat was loud enough to fill the room. And then, a single heavy thud from directly beneath the floor. The wooden boards trembled under my boots. Something was on the staircase, climbing, slow. Metal creaked under weight. Step, creak, step, creak. I backed toward the center of the room. The staircase led up through a square opening in the floor, with a hatch I could close if needed. I dropped to my knees and pulled the hatch shut, locked it. The climbing didn't stop. The metal groaned closer, then stopped directly beneath the hatch. Silence. I held my breath. Something scraped across the underside of the wood. Slowly. Deliberately. Like fingers dragging across it. Then... Knock, knock, knock on the hatch. From inches below my face. My entire body shook. "Go away," I muttered. The radio turned on again by itself. "You're in my tower." The voice no longer sounded exactly like mine. It was layered, like multiple versions speaking at once. The hatch handle began to rattle. Once, twice, then violently. The wood splintered. A crack split across it. Through the crack, I saw something moving. Not a face, not hands, just darkness shifting. And then, my alarm went off. 6 a.m. Sunlight poured through the windows. The hatch was intact. No cracks, no damage. The staircase was empty. I laughed. A weak, shaky laugh. Just a nightmare. Isolation does things to you. That's what they warn you about. I made coffee, stepped outside to breathe the cold morning air. And that's when I saw it, carved into the wooden railing circling the tower platform. Words. Fresh. Deep. Go back to sleep. The letters were cut from the outside, facing inward, as if whoever carved them had been standing on the air. I packed my things immediately, radioed the ranger station, told them I was coming down early. No response. Just static. I descended the staircase slowly, step by step. Halfway down, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. There were muddy footprints on the steps. Large, bare, leading up, not down. They stopped at the hatch. I didn't finish my shift. I drove straight back to town. Didn't look in the rearview mirror once. That was 6 months ago. Last night, I woke up at 2:17 a.m. 3 knocks on my bedroom window. I live on the 4th floor. I used to work the overnight shift at a small local radio station. Not a big corporate one. Just a quiet, independent FM station that mostly played old rock and took late-night requests from insomniacs and truck drivers. From midnight to 5 a.m., I was completely alone. The station sat at the edge of town, near a stretch of empty highway and abandoned farmland. At night, it felt cut off from the world, the kind of place where silence wasn't peaceful. It was heavy. My job was simple. Cue songs, read the occasional weather update, and answer calls. Most nights, nothing happened. Until October 17th. It was 3:13 a.m. I remember the exact time because the digital clock above the soundboard flickered when it changed from 3:12 to 3:13. That's when every sound in the building stopped. The low hum of the equipment, the faint buzz from the fluorescent lights, even the air conditioning. Silence. Not power outage silence. Different. The equipment lights were still on. The broadcast signal monitor showed we were still live. But in my headphones, nothing. No music. No static. Just emptiness. I pulled off the headphones and looked around the studio. Everything looked normal. The red on-air sign was glowing. Then it started. A sound in my headphones. Not music. Breathing. Slow. Steady. Close to the microphone. I froze. The mic in front of me was muted. I checked twice. The breathing continued. Then a voice. My voice. If you can hear this, don't look behind you. My blood ran cold. I hadn't said that. I was alone. I slowly turned in my chair anyway. The studio door behind me was closed. The hallway beyond the small window was dark. Empty. I swallowed and leaned toward the console. This is station 94.7. I said carefully into the mic. If this is some kind of interference, please identify yourself. Static crackled. Then the voice came back. Still mine. You shouldn't have answered the call. I didn't remember answering any call. But as soon as the voice said it, the phone line indicator began flashing. Line 2. Incoming. With shaking fingers, I pressed the button. Hello. Silence. Then very faintly, the sound of music. It took me a second to recognize it. It was the song that had been playing before everything went silent. Except distorted. Like it was playing underwater. Who is this?
checked my phone. 3:47.
I had lost 34 minutes. I didn't remember them. Panic started to creep in. I stood up and walked to the studio door. The hallway lights flickered as I stepped out. The building felt wrong, longer. The hallway seemed stretched, like the walls had subtly shifted outward. Every footstep echoed too loudly. When I reached the restroom mirror at the end of the hall, I stopped. My reflection stared back, pale, sweating. But something was off. My reflection wasn't breathing. My chest rose and fell. The reflections didn't. I stepped closer. It smiled. I wasn't smiling. I stumbled back, heart slamming against my ribs. The hallway lights went out. Complete darkness. From somewhere in the building, the speakers turned on, and my voice filled the halls. You're still on air. Emergency lights flickered on in dim red. At the far end of the hallway, the studio door stood open. I was sure I had closed it. Inside, I could see someone sitting in my chair, back turned to me, wearing my jacket, headphones on, talking into the mic. My voice echoed through the building. I can see you. The figure slowly turned its head. Not fully, just enough for me to see its profile. It was me, but wrong. Eyes too dark, smile too wide. The broadcast monitor on the wall lit up with a live feed camera. It showed the studio, the chair, empty. I looked back toward the doorway. The figure was gone. The hallway lights snapped back to normal. The speakers went silent. I stood there shaking for what felt like minutes. Finally, I forced myself back into the studio. Everything looked normal. The playlist was running. The mic was muted. The clock read 4:02 a.m. I sat down carefully. My chair was warm, like someone had just been sitting in it. At 4:59 a.m., the morning host arrived. He found me standing outside in the parking lot. I don't remember going out there. I quit that day, walked away from radio forever. For months, nothing happened. Until last week. I was driving home late from work. Different job, different life. The radio turned on by itself. 94.7 FM. Static at first, then breathing, then my voice. Live.
I took the night shift at a roadside motel because no one else wanted it. 12 rooms, one flickering neon sign, a highway that went quiet after midnight. The owner told me one rule on my first day. Don't assign room 17. He didn't explain why. I didn't ask. From 11 p.m. to 6 a.m., I sat behind the front desk with a coffee that tasted like metal, watching dust float through the light. Every sound felt louder at night. The hum of the vending machine, the ticking wall clock, the distant rush of cars. Most nights, nothing happened. Then came the storm. Rain hammered the roof around 2:12 a.m. Thunder shook the windows hard enough to make the key rack rattle. I was halfway through scrolling my phone when headlights swept across the lobby windows. A car pulled in. That was unusual. People didn't stop here in storms. They sped past. A man walked in, tall, soaking wet. His clothes looked old, too old, like something from another decade. He didn't drip water onto the floor. I noticed that immediately. Room, he said. His voice sounded flat, like it didn't echo right. Sure, I replied, standing. ID, please? He stared at me for a moment too long, then smiled. You already have it. I frowned. Sir, I don't. 17, he said softly. My stomach tightened. I can't rent that room, I said. It's out of order. The man tilted his head. His smile didn't fade. It's the only one I've ever stayed in. Lightning flashed outside. For a split second, I swear his reflection didn't appear in the glass door behind him. I swallowed. I can give you room 6 or 9. He leaned closer over the desk. I smelled something cold. Not rot, not mildew, just cold. I won't be staying long, he said. I never do. Before I could answer, the lobby lights flickered, just once. When they came back on, the key for room 17 was gone from the rack. The man was holding it. I don't remember handing it to him. He turned and walked toward the parking lot. I should have stopped him. I didn't. At 2:47 a.m., the phone rang. Room calls went through the desk. I answered. Front desk. Static crackled, then breathing, slow, controlled. Is everything still the same? The man asked. Yes, I said, though I didn't know what that meant. Good, he replied, because it never ends well when things change. The line went dead. I checked the security monitor. Room 17's camera was blacked out, no signal. All the others were fine. That wasn't possible. The wiring ran in a straight line. If one went out, at least two more should have failed. At 3:09 a.m., the motion sensor alarm chirped. Room 17. I grabbed the flashlight from under the desk and stepped into the rain. The storm had quieted, but the air felt thick, heavy, like the night was holding its breath. Room 17 sat at the far end of the lot. The door was open. Hello? I called. No answer. Inside, the room smelled clean, too clean, like it had never been used. No dust, no wrinkles in the bedspread. Then I saw the mirror. Something was written across a finger drawn through steam that shouldn't have been there. You're early. My reflection looked wrong. A second behind my movements. I stepped back. The bathroom light turned on by itself. I ran. Back in the lobby, I locked the door and watched the monitors. At 3:33 a.m., the camera for room 17 flickered on. The room was empty, except for the bed. Someone was lying under the covers, facing the camera, facing me. It was my face, eyes open, unblinking. The phone rang. I didn't answer. The voicemail light blinked. A new message appeared on the system. Timestamp 2:12 a.m. Before the man had arrived. Against every instinct I had, I played it. My own voice came through the speaker. Front desk, how can I help you? Then another voice, mine again, but quieter, whispering. He's here. Don't give him the key. The recording ended with a sound like a door closing. Behind me. I turned. Room 17's key was back on the rack, still wet. At 5:58 a.m., the sky started to lighten. The storm cleared. Birds began to make noise like nothing had happened. The owner arrived at 6. I quit on the spot. As I was leaving, I asked him one last question. Who usually stays in room 17? He looked at me carefully. No one, he said. Not since the night clerk disappeared. I didn't ask which one. That was months ago. Last night, while driving home on a road I don't remember taking, I saw the neon sign again. Same motel, same storm, same room light on at the end. And when my phone rang, the caller ID said, Room 17. I worked the night shift at an old railway station for a few months. Officially, it was still listed on maps, but in reality, it was abandoned. No passengers, no tickets, no announcements, just the occasional freight train passing through in the middle of the night. My shift started at 11 p.m. and ended at 5 a.m. All I had to do was sit in a small control room, watch the cameras, and make sure no one entered the restricted areas. The first few nights were quiet. Too quiet. The wind howled through the tunnels, echoing like distant voices. Sometimes the lights flickered, but I told myself it was just old wiring. Things started getting strange during my second week. The first time it happened was at 1:40 a.m. One of the security monitors suddenly turned on by itself. Camera 9, Platform 0. That didn't make sense. There was no Platform 0, at least not officially. The footage was grainy and black and white, a narrow platform, dim yellow lights, thick fog crawling along the ground. A single metal bench sat in the middle. I assumed it was a glitch, maybe an old recording looping by mistake. Then the station loudspeaker trackled to life. Incoming train to Platform 0, arriving shortly. My stomach dropped. That speaker system hadn't worked for years. I left the control room and stepped into the main hallway. The fluorescent lights flickered above me, buzzing softly. My footsteps echoed louder than they should have. At the end of the hallway, where there was supposed to be a solid concrete wall, I saw something new. A metal staircase. I froze. That staircase had never been there before. I stood there for a full minute, convincing myself I had just never noticed it. Then I went down. The air grew colder with every step. It smelled like rust and damp concrete. When I reached the bottom, I found myself standing on a platform. A rusted sign hung above my head. Platform 0. The fog was thick, the lights barely worked, and someone was sitting on the bench. A man in an old-fashioned coat, his head lowered, completely still. "Sir," I said, "this area is closed." No response. I took a few steps closer. That's when I heard it. A train. Not loud like modern trains. This one sounded heavy, slow, and wrong, like metal dragging through darkness. A single headlight appeared at the end of the tunnel. An old train rolled into the station. No number, no logo, no destination sign. The doors opened. No one got off. The man on the bench stood up slowly and walked toward the train without ever looking at me. He stepped inside. The doors closed. The train disappeared into the tunnel, swallowed by fog. When I ran back upstairs, the staircase was gone. Just a concrete wall. I told myself I imagined everything. The next night was normal, until 2:03 a.m. The loudspeaker turned on again. "Final train to Platform 0, now boarding." I checked the cameras. This time, the platform was crowded. Men, women, different ages, all standing silently, none of them moving. I felt something pulling me, like I was supposed to go down there. The staircase was back. When I reached Platform 0 again, one of the people turned and looked straight at me. It was my face. Same eyes, same scar above the eyebrow. He smiled. That's when I noticed something horrifying. None of the people on the platform were breathing. The train arrived. The doors opened. They all stepped inside, one by one, without a sound. My double paused in front of me. "You missed your stop last time," he said calmly. I ran. I don't remember climbing the stairs. I don't remember reaching the control room. I only remember the monitor. Camera 9. It showed Platform 0, and someone new sitting alone on the bench. Me. I quit the next morning. A week later, I checked the station's old records. There was a Platform 0 once. It was sealed after an accident. A night train vanished with everyone on board. No bodies were ever found. They say the train still arrives, but only for those who are already halfway gone. I worked the night shift at a small traffic control center. Not police, not emergency services. Just a room full of monitors showing live feeds from street cameras, intersections, tunnels, and empty roads. From 12 a.m. to 6 a.m., it was usually just me. Most cameras showed nothing. Empty sidewalks, blinking traffic lights, the occasional late-night car passing through. The job was simple. Watch for accidents, report anything unusual. At least, that's what I thought. At 1:58 a.m., one of the monitors flickered. Camera C47. That camera wasn't on my list. I checked the system map. Cameras went from C01 to C42. There was no C47. The feed showed a narrow street. Old buildings, no streetlights. The image quality was worse than the others, like it was being streamed from very far away. I assumed it was a glitch. Then the camera moved. Not panned, not zoomed. It turned. slowly, like someone was holding it. My chair creaked as I leaned closer to the screen. The view stopped in front of a building entrance. The door was familiar. Too familiar. It was my apartment building. My stomach tightened. I pulled up the timestamp. Live. 01:58:22. I was sitting at work, so who was standing outside my building? The camera angle lowered slightly, as if the person holding it was looking down at the doormat. It said, "Welcome home." I live alone. I don't have a camera outside my door. The feed cut to black. I exhaled, laughing nervously. Okay, that's not funny. At 2:06 a.m., the same camera came back. Now it was inside a hallway, my hallway. Same cracked paint, same flickering ceiling light, same fire extinguisher missing its pin. The camera moved forward. Each step was slow, careful. I checked the system logs. Operator, you. I hadn't touched the controls. My hands were shaking now. At the end of the hallway, the camera stopped. In front of my door. I stood up so fast my chair almost fell over. "No," I whispered. The camera tilted up. My door number. Then a knock. Not on the screen. Behind me. In the control room. 3 slow knocks. I froze. There was no one else scheduled. The building was locked at night. The monitor changed again. The camera now showed a small room. A control room. My control room. I could see the back of my chair. I could see myself standing, watching the screens. The timestamp still said live. A message appeared at the bottom of the feed. You left the camera on. The lights in the room flickered. I turned around. No one there. When I faced the monitors again, camera C47 was gone. Deleted. Every record erased. At 6 a.m., my shift ended. I didn't tell anyone. I just went home. When I reached my apartment, everything looked normal. Door locked, no signs of forced entry. Inside, I tried to convince myself it was stress, hallucination, fatigue. Then I noticed something on my desk. A small black device. A camera, pointed at my bed. The red light was on, blinking, and on my phone, a notification appeared. C47, live. I took the job because it paid cash and no one asked questions. Night shift at a gas station in the middle of the desert. One pump still working, a small shop with flickering fluorescent lights, miles of nothing in every direction. The owner warned me before he left. "If anyone asks for directions," he said, "don't give them any." I laughed. In the middle of nowhere? He didn't smile. Especially here. From midnight to dawn, the desert felt unreal. Too quiet. No wind, no insects, just the hum of the fridge and the buzz of the lights above my head. At 1:17 a.m., a car pulled in. Old, beige, covered in dust like it had been driving for days. The engine didn't make a sound. A woman stepped out, thin, pale. Her clothes looked wrong, too clean for the desert, like she hadn't touched the outside world. She walked in and stood in front of the counter. "Is this the last stop?" she asked. Her voice echoed slightly, even though the room was small. "The last stop for what?" I said. She blinked, slowly. "Before the road ends." I felt a chill. "Roads don't end," I said. "They just keep going." She smiled faintly. "That's what they all say." She looked around the shop, then back at me. "Which lead to the city?" The owner's warning echoed in my head. "I can't give directions," I said. "Sorry." Her smile disappeared. "Oh," she said softly. "Then I'm late." Before I could ask what she meant, she turned and walked out. I watched through the window. She didn't get into the car. She stood beside it, waiting. At 1:29 a.m., the radio crackled. I hadn't turned it on. Static filled the room, then a voice, low, distorted. "Last call." I unplugged the radio. The voice kept going. "Last call for those who missed their turn." The lights dimmed. Outside, the woman was gone. So was the car. At 2:03 a.m., another vehicle arrived. A pickup truck this time, rusted, headlights off. A man got out. His movements were stiff, like he wasn't used to his body. He walked in, sniffed the air. "Smells like fuel," he said. "That's good." I didn't respond. He leaned on the counter. "You seen a woman, light dress, looks lost." "No," I said. He nodded as if he expected that. "Figures," he muttered. Then he looked straight at me. "You working alone?" "Yes." His smile was too wide. "Then you should hurry." "Hurry with what?" He tapped the counter twice, choosing. Before I could ask, he left. The desert outside had changed. The horizon looked closer, like the world had shrunk. At 2:22 a.m., the bathroom door creaked open by itself. I hadn't heard anyone go in. From inside, I heard whispering, multiple voices, all saying the same thing. "We missed the exit." I backed away, heart pounding. The shop door slammed shut. The pumps outside turned on by themselves. Numbers started rolling fast. No hoses connected. At 2:34 a.m., the window fogged up. Words appeared, traced from the outside. "You work here, now." I grabbed my keys and ran for the door. It wouldn't open. The radio crackled again. "Last stop closing." The lights went out. In the darkness, I heard footsteps surrounding me, too many. A hand touched my shoulder, cold, dry. A voice whispered in my ear, my own voice. "You didn't give directions." The light snapped back on. I was alone. The shop was normal. Morning light crept over the desert. At 6 a.m., a car pulled in. A young guy stepped out, phone in hand. "Hey, is this the last gas station before the city?" I opened my mouth, paused, then smiled. "Yes," I said, "it is." He thanked me and walked back to his car. I watched him drive off, in the wrong direction. When I looked down at the counter, there was something I hadn't noticed before. A name tag. Old, cracked plastic. It read, "Attendant, Night Shift," with my name on it. Behind the counter, the radio whispered softly. "Another one stayed."